Hi friends, happy Tuesday. I hope you're having a great day and that you had a wonderful weekend. I hope everyone is spending time on their Lexia and on their Zern and got to watch Mrs. Ferreira yesterday talking about fractions. That's super important. Today I have a story for you. It's one of my favorite stories and it's about a garden and it's about a groundhog who has lots of friends who help him. It's about sharing, it's about being kind, and at the end, I have a great self story that I'm going to tell you. It's called a text to self connection, and I think you're really going to enjoy hearing about it. So here we go. The title of our story is How Groundhog's Garden Grew, and you can see groundhog sitting right on the cover of that. I told some friends in my room that we had a groundhog who used to live under the pre-K portable. We used to watch him sneak out and eat grass every day. So hopefully he'll be coming out pretty soon too. The story was written by Lynn Cherry. She's the author and the illustrator. Here we go. Little Groundhog was hungry. Beautiful, scrumptious, irresistible, he exclaimed as he crept into a neighbor's lovely garden. He was nibbling on some fresh green lettuce when Squirrel rushed down her tree. Little Groundhog, Squirrel scolded, this food does not belong to you. If you take food that belongs to others, you will not have a friend in the world. Why don't you plant your own garden? I'm sorry, Little Groundhog told her, embarrassed, but I don't know how. Well then, replied Squirrel, I will show you. Squirrels are very busy, and this squirrel is trying to help Groundhog. Look at that gorgeous garden. There are tomatoes and a sunflower. These are called artichokes. There's Swiss chard and cabbage. There's berries and raspberries. All kinds of delicious things. And if you look carefully, you can see animals like a toad. There's all kinds of animals that you'll see pop up as we read. First, said Squirrel, you need some seeds. Little Groundhog helped Squirrel and her friends pick beans and peas from pods and seeds from sunflower's drooping head. They collected seeds from inside peppers, cantaloupes, cucumbers, and tomatoes. Squirrel chewed a little hole into a pumpkin and handed Little Groundhog the gooey seeds, saying, we'll dry these in the sun. Then we can plant them in the spring. All of these plants and vegetables have seeds in them, and around the edge you can see what they look like. A chill breeze blew in. It's time to dig up potatoes, Squirrel said. Little Groundhog watched Squirrel and thought, that looks like fun, and so he took a rake and poked around for potatoes too. When they were finished, Squirrel added composted leaves to her garden as fertilizer for the coming year. Potatoes are a root crop. They grow under the dirt where roots grow. You can see carrots are a root crop, radishes, turnips. You don't actually see the vegetable until you pull it and out they'll come. And here you can see what they look like. You pull the green leaves and all the potatoes come up. This is my favorite picture in the whole book because it's so peaceful. November's snow flurries told Squirrel that winter was on its way. Sweet dreams, Little Groundhog, Squirrel said as she curled up in her little hole in the tree. See you in the spring, Little Groundhog said, and snuggled into his deep earthen burrow. Remember, a burrow is where an animal will dig down into the ground and sleep for the winter. You can see there's an animal over here, turtle is over here. This little chipmunk even stored some food. We learned about that this fall. In February, Little Groundhog awoke and ambled or walked up to the burrow entrance. The wind made him shiver. He saw his shadow and hurried back inside. Oh my, he said, this will be a long winter. And look at his garden. Those are the sunflowers. That's where the beans grew. That was the raspberry bush. There's nothing left but snow. Weeks later, he awoke with a start. It's spring, he shouted, and up he scuttled to the burrow entrance. There he met Squirrel carrying the burlap sack they had filled with potatoes and tins of seeds. Rise and shine, Squirrel said. It's planting time. First, we'll cut the potatoes into little pieces with 2 sprouts each. Potatoes will grow a little sprout, or an eye they're called. Then we'll plant them with the sprouts pointing up and cover them with soil. Each sprout will grow into a new potato plant. Next fall, we'll dig new potatoes out of the ground. Now let's find a sunny place for your garden. When they found a good spot, Squirrel said to Little Groundhog, "First we need to dig in the soil to loosen it up." Next they planted the cut up potatoes. Then they dug rows and sprinkled in carrots, beets, parsnip, and radish seeds. "All these vegetables will grow under the ground," Squirrel told him, "so we call them root crops." They covered the seed with dirt gently and watered them. At the end of each row, Squirrel stuck markers in so he would remember. If you want to pause my video for a minute, go ahead and do that. Think about what you would plant in your garden. Tell your brother, your sister, or a grown-up, or whoever's there, and share with them what you would plant. Look at all this stuff he did. It's amazing. Little Squirrel told Little Groundhog, "Plants need lots of sun. We'll plant taller vegetables in the back so they won't crowd out the other ones and put a shadow over them." So behind the row of root crops, they planted seeds of tomatoes, peppers, and leafy greens. So all of these grow under. These are all short, and the ones in the back are nice and tall. "Some vegetables grow on vines," said Squirrel. She pounded sticks into the ground for the peas and the bean plants to climb on. "Some plants grow very big." So they planted the seeds of pumpkins, zucchini, yellow squash, sunflowers, corn, and artichokes far apart. Those are very big plants, so they need lots of room. And again, look around the edge. You can see these are pepper seeds and eggplant seeds, cucumber seeds, cilantro and corn and peas. All seeds look different. Look at everyone helping them. The squirrel, the birds, turtle, a dragonfly. The next day, Squirrel said, "Let's visit my garden. I want to show you the plants that come up year after year all by themselves. They're called perennials." Sure enough, shoots of raspberries and asparagus were already poking up through the ground. Squirrel dug up a frilly young asparagus plant. This is asparagus for Little Groundhog's garden. You'll need to wait 3 years before this asparagus has nice thick stems to eat. Little Groundhog said, "Thank you. I'm off to plant my perennials. They'll come up every single year. You don't even have to replant them." Every day, Little Groundhog watched and watered his garden. He weeded. Then one day, his seedlings emerged. "How wonderful!" he exclaimed. But as they grew, he worried, "Are these seedlings too close to each other? Look how close they are. What should I do?" "Pull some up and plant them somewhere else," said Little Squirrel. Groundhog pulled up a few seedlings and looked at them. The peas, the beans, all the seeds had split open. From each, there was a root. Little Groundhog transplanted some seedlings where they had room to grow. And down here you can see that's the root. The seed will pop right off once a sprout comes through. A wren is a bird, and praying mantis said to Little Groundhog, "If you promise not to harm us with bug spray, we birds and insects will help you with your garden. We will eat the harmful or bad insects that hurt your plants." Little Groundhog promised. As the weeks passed, plants grew and blossomed. Bees, flies, and butterflies came to eat the sweet nectar and carried pollen from flower to flower. They told Little Groundhog, "The wind, the rain, and we insects pollinate your flowers so they become fruits and vegetables. We have to have bees to do that. They help everything grow." Wow, look at that. Little Groundhog noticed that after a flower was pollinated by an insect or the wind, its petals dried up and fell off. Underneath was the smallest beginning of a tiny vegetable. So you can see this is what it looks like. It starts and then there's a flower, and when the flower falls off, that's what the vegetable will look like as it starts to grow. Over here is a pepper. See, it's a flower, and then when the flower dries up and falls off, the little pepper starts to grow. A tiny tomato, a tiny cucumber, a pepper, an eggplant, a pea pod, a zucchini. So this is how a garden grows. Little Groundhog cried jubilantly, which meant he was very happy. Look at that. Tomatoes turned red, heads of cabbage grew, a sunflower seemed to explode from the top of a tall stalk. Snap peas, string beans, peppers, lettuce, and Swiss chard grew larger under the sun. Little Groundhog rejoiced. He ate from his very own garden, plain and fresh from his very own garden all summer. All of this is what he grew from just a few seeds. This is my other favorite page. When fall came again, Squirrel wanted to share one more secret with Little Groundhog, cooking. And so they stewed tomatoes, boiled corn, broiled potatoes, stir-fried vegetables, and even stuffed and baked a zucchini, saving seeds to plant the next year. There was so much more than they could eat themselves. What shall we do? Asked Little Groundhog. We share. And look at all of the things that he grew. So he knows it's too much for him. So look at what he did. What a great idea, cried Little Groundhog. As they sat around the table, the friends exclaimed, "Thank you for inviting us to this amazing feast." A feast is a big celebration with dinner or food. Little Groundhog replied, "Thank you for forgiving me for eating from your garden last year. And thank you, Squirrel, for teaching me to grow my own. It's beautiful, scrumptious, irresistible. Let's eat." What a fortunate creature I am, he thought. Delicious, nutritious, homegrown food and wonderful friends to share it with. Little Groundhog grew into a big groundhog and became known far and wide for his annual Thanksgiving dinner. And that is how Groundhog's garden grew. All right, my friends, so I have a story to tell you. I have a bird feeder right outside my house, and I was eating dinner with my daughter Madeline, and all of a sudden we saw the bird feeder start to swing, and a squirrel came out of nowhere. He crawled up the pole, hang on with 2 feet, and started eating all the bird seed. So the poor birds had none left. When you're done watching my video, I want you to watch the next video that Madeline's going to put up for you to see that naughty little squirrel. Now, there's something I need you to do. Look over here. This is your job for this morning. This is a graphic organizer about squirrels. Now you know how to do this. I want you to write the word squirrel in the middle and draw lines out of it. I want you to think of some adjectives that describe a squirrel. Remember, an adjective is a word that describes another word. And here's your writing for today. Write a story about my sneaky squirrel. Tell me how you could get him to stop stealing the bird's food. Make sure you have an opening sentence. Make it a good one. Number 2, use adjectives. Tell me what he looks like. Tell me what he feels like. Tell me what he's doing and use those adjectives. Punctuation, periods, question marks. Don't forget a closing sentence and a great picture. Read your story to 2 people. If you want, you can post a picture on Dojo for all of us to see. So again, write a story for me about how you could get that sneaky squirrel to stop stealing all the birds' food. So we're going to sign off here. And don't forget, you can go on and watch the video about that little squirrel once you're done with this. So happy writing. I can't wait to see your stories, and I hope your grown-up and brothers and sisters love what you wrote. Bye-bye. We miss you.